And now for something completely machinima.
Tracy Harwood. So I've done a little bit of digging around and I've discovered.
Ricky Grove. Fog comes in on little cat feet.
Phil Rice. This is the best film that I've seen all year and maybe ever.
Damien Valentine. Use the machinima, Luke.
Hello and welcome to And Now for Something Completely Machinima, the podcast about machinima, virtual production, and related technologies. My name's Phil Rice. I'm here with my co-hosts, Damien Valentine and Ricky Grove.
Hello.
Hey there, I brought my fork today.
Excellent. Tracy did not bring her fork, so we didn't let her be on this episode, but she will be back with us very soon.
Yep.
So this week we are covering, it's an unusual pick in that it's not just one film. This is kind of a collection of films that are varying perspectives around something that happened in a video game. I'll let Damien clarify that mess for us. Go ahead, Damien.
Right, so Elite Dangerous, we've shown films made with this game a number of times, but it's an online game, and there's ongoing stories and events happening. And over the last few years, there's been this war against this alien race called the Thargoids. Now,
So it's a space game, right?
Yeah. Right, so you're in a spaceship and you fly around, and it's a big open galaxy, and you can fly around making money however you want. So you can trade, you can be a pirate, do missions, or just go out exploring into the unknown depths of space because it's a full-size galaxy. And I think in the 10 years the game's been running, less than 1% of it has been explored.
Wow.
That's how big it is. So about halfway through the game's lifetime so far, the Thargoids show up. These are aliens that go back to the original game from 1982. They've shown up in the Elite Dangerous, and initially they were just there being a bit of a nuisance. They would drag ships out of hyperspace, scan them, and then fly off, and then the pilot had to restore power and then can carry on their journey. But things escalated and it turned into a war. And it got to a point where late last year, this huge Thargoid mothership was spotted heading to Earth. And in the build-up of it is there was all these missions to evacuate people from Earth and the space stations around the solar system to get them away from the aliens before they showed up. And it was about a week before that was going to happen. Then the aliens actually arrived, and the mothership stayed in orbit of Earth, and all these other smaller alien ships were attacking the space stations. And if you came to this solar system, there's a good chance you're going to be attacked by the aliens, and people were bringing in relief supplies and all this stuff. But the alien mothership had a weakness where you have to fly in very close, which is very difficult because the mothership was surrounded by this sort of very acidic cloud. So unless you had the right armor on your ship would disintegrate before you get close to it. So you get through the cloud, then there's these rocks around it, and you go through those, and then the small alien ships are there buzzing around looking for targets. You get really close to the mothership. There's these these vent systems around. So you have to fire a couple of special missiles into those, which would open up the cooling system, and then you have to hit that. Now, what was happening is players were doing this, and there's no single player could just do the kill shot. It's not like the Death Star where Luke Skywalker flies in. He's the one pilot that does it. But it's similar in that sense that you have the daring flight, but it's the combination of everyone taking part that blows up the mothership. Eventually, enough damage was done to the ship, it would cause it to overheat. And there's a 24-hour countdown before the whole thing explodes. And this is only going to happen once. It wasn't an event that you could just replay again. So I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, because that's when the 24-hour thing ran out, to see this ship explode. And I did take part in the attack on it, and I got a few shots in. So I got up, watched it. The final countdown was going, and I stayed at quite a distance just to see it explode. And it's very satisfying to see this thing happen. And I knew that in the history of this game, that's never going to happen again. I had to get up at that time in the morning to see it because there's no way I could come in later and see it happen again. It's not one of those missions where you can, like in most MMOs, where you can just replay it however you want. That's the fixed time and that was it. So I thought, well, I wonder what other people have done to record their experiences of taking part in this event. So I actually found several other videos. There was a really good video, but for some reason they'd chosen this sort of casual jazz music as the soundtrack for it. And it was so wrong that I just could not choose that as one of my picks for this. But the actual video itself was good, but yeah, the music was just so wrong. But I found these three, and there are different styles. So the first one, it's kind of like a documentary of the whole battle for the solar system. So he's got clips of the damage the aliens have done, debris flying and shots of alien ships attacking and the human ships fighting back and stuff like that. And then he kind of gets his pilot is sitting way back like I did, and the mothership explodes, and he's got the sound effects from the explosion as well. Then there was one that was showing his own take on the being part of the war rather than just like a generic one. So he did it more of a memorial for the fictional pilots who died. And then she went up close to the mothership as it exploded, and you see him getting blasted back out of the clouds, and then he sees it explode from a distance. And then the third one was more of a let's play kind of video where he recorded it as he was going in close, and the alien ships started firing at him as he was there trying to film it. And like the previous one, when the ship explodes, he kind of gets blown back out to safety, and he sees the thing explode. Now, the reason these videos are pretty rough, but the reason is you only get one take on this because you can't do it again. Once that ship explodes, that's it. So none of them are exactly masterpieces of machinima, but I was really fascinated that how these three different players had decided to document this event in the game's history. It's something that, 5 years from now, if the game is still running, they can look back and say, well, yeah, we were part of the defense of Earth and we saved it, and this is how we did it. And I thought, well, this is very different from anything we've done before, even though we've covered this game before in a number of videos. I thought, I don't know, this is capturing history as far as the game is concerned. And I can't just choose one of these. I had to choose three just for the different perspectives, because none of them are perfect depictions of what happened, because just of the rough nature of the way the event unfolded.
All three are short, so it's pretty easy to watch them all quickly. Yeah. It's not like you're not going to be spending an hour doing this.
No, and I'm really glad I got to be part of I don't play the game so much anymore, but I got involved just for this, and it's such a unique and satisfying experience that I'm glad I did, and I'm glad these other people documented it. I did capture my footage of the ship exploding, but it's just me sitting from a distance, but nothing happens until it explodes, and I got the sound effects and everything. But they made it more interesting than I did, because I didn't really know what to expect. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. So what do you guys think?
Phil?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm fascinated as much as anything by the phenomenon of a one-time only event in a, multiplayer universe type world like this. It's not the only time that kind of thing has been done in a game, but I don't think I've ever participated in one or been playing the game in particular. It seems like I heard something about something like this happening in one of the Skyrim games or something like that, where there was some major cataclysm or something along those lines. It's a fascinating thing, and I think what I would most enjoy watching of these three were interesting, but what would make a lot of sense is something I think that will emerge inevitably is a supercut of tons of different, because you know that there's more than just these three people who recorded it, right? So
Yeah.
you're going to have all different kinds of angles and stuff like that, and it might be interesting to see, the event where it's cutting from all these, see the same explosion from these different perspectives. Could be interesting. The one that I guess touched me a bit, if that's the right word, is the second one, the reflection, because it begins with this kind of a montage of audio of all these radio clips of what sounds like actual player game chatter, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then kind of fades and comes into this music, which is what's the, not nostalgia, sentimental, which I was kind of surprised because Ricky has kind of helped me sharpen my anti-sentimental horns over the years. Like, it's one of those things. It's like, okay, now that I see it, I can't not see it. But this one got me anyway. Like, it gave a real sense of like that feeling of camaraderie of soldiers who have endured loss in a war, that type of, whatever that feeling is. This kind of mournful feeling mixed with, what is it? Like a bittersweet victory, that, okay, we've triumphed, but not without great cost. That one really, that was the only one endeavoring, I think, to give that perspective. And for me, it worked. The song's a little sappy once it gets going, but that's just personal taste. The third one was funny because according to the description, his main objective was to capture a good image for his desktop wallpaper. So he was just there as a paparazzi, basically a space paparazzi, to capture this thing, and then ends up getting caught up in the scrape. That's pretty funny, that would happen. So, it's an interesting phenomena. It's one where I think the underlying event is of greater interest to me than maybe any of the single films. Which of course wouldn't exist without the event. So it's a very interesting phenomena. I would be very interested to see if someone ends up someday making a documentary about that phenomena. Not just in Elite Dangerous, but the phenomena of staging these singular events in ongoing multiplayer worlds. That's fast. There's a lot of nuts and bolts. There's a lot of moving parts to make that happen on the developer end too. There's a lot of pressure on them. What if it doesn't go right or it doesn't play properly? How do they do that? So I'm picturing a team of people like in the documentary we covered earlier this month with Hugh and Strange Company, huddled around computers trying to make it all happen.
Trying to make a film about it. Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah, that would be interesting.
That singular event is just not only is it a great promotional gimmick for the game company, but it's also quite an interesting philosophical thing, where it only happens in an imaginary space. This unique event in which you can have feelings about. Fascinating. It's also the kind of subject that the science fiction writer Philip K. Dick would write about if he had lived through the internet age. He would definitely rewrite about that. I am not the brightest bush sometimes. And I failed to read up on the films, but that's generally my approach. I hardly ever read the filmmaker's statement about what they're doing. I like to just watch the film, but in this case, I didn't do due diligence, and I had no idea what the actual purpose of these films were. So I just watched them as films.
Okay.
And so my perspective was completely different. However, midway through the last one, I saw the fact that there was this explosive event that occurred. And I suspected in the third film there was going to be the same thing. So I read the description and it all clicked into place. And I went, unique event. This is all. Because I was curious as to why Damien was referring it to as documentaries, because they didn't look like documentaries. Maybe they look like
Right.
fictional films, you know? So I'm going to have two perspectives on it. One is the uninformed perspective, and the other one is the person who knows what the event is about. So the uninformed perspective, the first film was the best in terms of being just an interesting science fiction film. It had really fairly traditional music, but it was shot in very effectively. It was more professional and it was quite involving and interesting. The second one was more fragmented and harder to follow. And the event itself didn't seem to be as emphasized as well as the first one. And the third one it didn't make much sense to me at all. However, when I realized what the films were about, they reversed their order. And the last film that was the most interesting to me once I understood what they were about, and the first one was the least interesting to me. So that was a very odd experience.
That's strange, yeah.
I've never experienced anything like that in watching machinima films before. But context is everything, you know? And that's what I think, in a way, makes machinima such a unique art form, because if you stand outside of machinima and you watch the film, you look at it as a film, as an animated 3D film. However, if you're within either the game community that the film is shot in or the community of filmmakers, you have a different perspective on what's being done. And I think that's important to make that distinction. Even today, I think that distinction exists. When I watch somebody who does a Let's Play video in Elden Ring, once I know what they're trying to do, my perspective on it as a game player, I immediately, because I love that game so much, I know all about it. However, and it's harder for me to pull back and get away from that perspective and look at it as just a film. So interesting perspective and experience for me, and I'm really glad you gave me the opportunity to understand how stupid I am at times. Thank you. Good picks.
I think the context is important here, and just now that the ship's exploded, but the debris, even as we record this now, is still in orbit of Earth, and players can go in and salvage parts of the alien debris to then sell. And of
That's
course,
awesome.
Then all the space stations got damaged because they were attacked. You can bring in supplies and repair components and stuff, so you can bring those in and sell them to the station and make money doing that.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that even though the aliens are gone, the aftermath is still an ongoing thing that's happening. I'm quite interested to see what happens next, and if the aliens are going to come back someday looking for revenge.
The ingenuity of ongoing open world gaming is, I think we're going to see this kind of thing happening more in the future.
Yeah.
You know, I really do.
And Phil, you were talking about having the developers do it. The first time they tried this in Elite Dangerous, it was a disaster.
Oh, really?
So the idea was they had a pilot who, there's a tie-in novel, and the author was playing the character of the novel in the game, and he had to fly the ship from one place to another because she was supposed to have this secret information that other people wanted to kill her, so she couldn't release it. And so you had two teams of players, one to protect her, and the others were trying to kill her because they knew there'd be a big reward for it. And the game was not designed to handle that. So it ended up, and the author was writing a second tie-in book where the result of this was going to be part of the story. And what happened was someone by the name of Harry Potter was able to kill her by he glitched the game or something to get her out of hyperspace, and without any escort, he killed her. And of course, because he was called Harry Potter, that name couldn't be included in the book. So and you could tell the author was not
that's great.
really happy that's the way it turned out, because he kind of lost
Yes.
interest in the game after that. But yeah, they didn't do that again for a few more years, and then they've obviously tinkered with the game and made it so they could actually do events and worked around the game's limitations. But
Or perhaps they realized that they needed to make the scale of the event much larger so no one individual could come in and hijack the whole thing.
yeah, I think because everyone had to go at taking this attacking the ship felt like they were doing something, even if they didn't get the kill shot. So you still felt like you were Luke Skywalker.
You were
doing the Death
participating.
Star rise, but you're not necessarily going to be the one that does it. I don't know who's the one that got the last shot. I don't think anyone knows, because everyone was doing it all at once. But
Fascinating.
It's just such a unique experience, and I hope they keep doing more of them.
Yep.
I picture the developer room being kind of like, the Houston NASA room when Apollo 11 lands and everyone just cheers and arms raised.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's perilous and could go horribly wrong, kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
Great pick, Damien.
Great picks.
Yeah,
fascinating.
I'm glad you enjoyed them.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing. Really gets the imagination going.
Sure does.
All right. Well, my name's Phil Rice. On behalf of my co-hosts Ricky and Damien, that's all the films for this month, isn't it? So we will see you all in the next episode.
Check our show notes at completelymachinima.com.